He shows up with a mower, works for free, and posts it online. Simple enough, except the man behind SB Mowing has quietly built a 55 million follower empire, an estimated $1 million net worth, and a media operation that runs deeper than anyone realized, all while refusing to tell the world his last name. For years, the questions have been piling up. Is it actually free? Who is the woman nobody ever sees? Did he really walk away from the business that made him famous? And what about the elderly woman whose lawn changed everything? Where did all that money actually go? Spencer has been selective about what he shares, but piece by piece the answers have been confirmed, and what they reveal isn't a scandal, it's something far more interesting than that. This is the story behind the mower, the man, and everything he's been quietly building all along. Most people stumble into their career. Spencer didn't. He was 11 years old, pushing his dad's old mower down a street in Wichita, Kansas, knocking on neighbors' doors and asking if he could cut their grass. No pitch, no flyer, no social media, just a kid willing to work. It sounds like the kind of wholesome story someone made up, except every part of it is documented, on record, and confirmed. By the time Spencer hit high school, what started as pocket money had turned into a real operation. He'd saved enough to buy his first ride-on mower and a second-hand trailer to haul it. At 16, he started promoting the business on Facebook, picking up customers the old-fashioned way. When the workload outgrew him, he brought in family friends to help keep up with demand. By college, SB Mowing had somewhere between 60 and 75 regular clients. And college wasn't a backup plan. Spencer earned a computer science scholarship to Kansas State University, a full academic program running parallel to a lawn care business he was still managing on weekends. He graduated in May 2021 with a bachelor's degree and moved back to Wichita, taking a remote mobile app developer job based out of Chicago. From the outside, that looked like the finish line. Degree done, career started, business handed off. The sensible path. But Spencer had already been watching what other people were doing on YouTube, smaller creators, lawn care guys, nobody particularly famous. And something clicked. He'd been doing this work for over a decade. He knew how to run it, film it, and tell the story behind it. The only question was whether anyone would actually watch. They would. August 2021. Spencer had just started a full-time job, was 6 months out of college, and had zero presence on YouTube. What he did have was a decade of lawn care experience, a camera, and an idea he'd borrowed from a handful of smaller creators he'd been watching online. One free mow per week. Film it, post it, see what happens. The first video hit 7 million views on TikTok. The second hit 5 million on YouTube within its first month alone, a number that has since climbed to around 14 million. In 30 days, Spencer went from 0 to 60,000 YouTube subscribers, which was enough to trigger monetization. The channel was already paying him before most people had even heard his name. What nobody expected, including Spencer, was how fast it compounded. The content wasn't flashy. There were no expensive production setups, no scripted drama, no manufactured storylines. Just a guy, a mower, a tripod, and a yard that needed saving. Viewers couldn't stop watching. The transformation format tapped into something deeply satisfying, and the ASMR quality of the audio, mowers humming, shovels scraping, blowers clearing, kept people locked in until the final frame. By October 2021, just 2 to 3 months after posting his first video, Spencer made a decision that most people in his position wouldn't have seriously entertained. He quit his full-time job. He was 22 years old, barely half a year out of university, with no guarantee the momentum would last. He went all in anyway. And looking back now, with 55 million followers across his platforms, it's hard to argue with the logic. But the growth was only part of the story, because the bigger question, the one the internet kept coming back to, was how any of this was actually making him money. Free lawn care, millions of views, a growing empire. At some point, the math stopped adding up for a lot of people, and the comment sections across every platform started filling up with the same question. If he's doing all this work for nothing, how is he actually paying his bills? Spencer has never been cagey about the answer. In fact, he's explained it himself more than once in almost exactly the same way each time. Google and Facebook pay him to run ads against his content. The more people watch, the more he earns. Giving the labor away for free is precisely what generates the views that generate the income. The generosity isn't separate from the business model, it is the business model. And it works. In 2025, estimates put his YouTube ad revenue alone at around $60,000 per month across his 2 channels. Factor in equipment sponsorships from brands like Hustler Mowers, Bad Boy, and Maruyama, a merchandise store selling everything from branded hats to professional lawn equipment, and affiliate partnerships built up over years, and his estimated net worth clears $1 million. What makes the whole thing quietly remarkable is that nobody forced him into a single awkward sponsorship deal or sold out his audience to get there. The channel built trust first and monetized second. Viewers who came for the transformation stayed for Spencer himself, and that loyalty is worth considerably more than any one-off brand placement. The rumor that he must be exploiting something, cutting corners somewhere, or running some kind of scam has followed him since the beginning. Homeowners at the door thought the same thing before he ever picked up a mower. Every single time the work spoke for itself. Here's something most of Spencer's audience still doesn't fully realize. The man known across the internet as the Mowing Guy no longer runs a mowing company. Early 2023, while the channel was still accelerating and the follower count was pushing toward 23 million across all platforms, Spencer made a quiet but significant decision. He sold the actual SB Mowing landscaping operation, the paying clients, the regular contracts, the day-to-day business, to his younger brother. No dramatic announcement, no farewell video. It just happened, and the content kept coming as if nothing had changed. From the outside, it looked identical. Spencer was still showing up with equipment, still transforming overgrown yards, still posting every Friday. But the structure underneath had shifted entirely. What had started as a lawn care business with a YouTube channel attached had become a content operation that used lawn care as its vehicle. Spencer wasn't a landscaper who filmed himself anymore. He was a full-time media creator who happened to mow lawns. It's a distinction that matters more than it might seem, because it explains the scale of what he's built since. The Spanish-language version of his channel, the SB pressure washing operation, which he and Andrea run during winter months when the Kansas ground is frozen and the mowing season shuts down. The merchandise line, the sponsorship portfolio, none of that gets built while someone is juggling 60 to 75 lawn care clients on the side. Selling the business wasn't stepping back, it was clearing the runway. Spencer had already figured out that the content was the product, the lawns were just the setting, and what he did next with that platform would shock even his most loyal viewers. For as long as SB Mowing has existed, one question has quietly trailed every video. Spencer is front and center, knocking on doors, running the equipment, telling the story. But who is the person behind the camera? Who decides what makes the cut and what doesn't? Who is actually running the operation when Spencer puts the mower down? Her name is Andrea, and for most of Spencer's audience, that's about as far as the information goes. Spencer has been deliberate about keeping his personal life out of the content. He withholds his last name from the press. He rarely references home life on camera. Andrea's face has appeared occasionally on social media, briefly without fanfare, but she has never been positioned as a character in the SB Mowing story. That was an intentional choice, and they've stuck to it. What Spencer has confirmed, in his own words during a podcast interview, is that Andrea is anything but a background presence. The two of them work through the editing process together, spending around 40 hours per video from raw footage to final cut. She is involved in generating content ideas and plays a direct role in creating the thumbnails that drive his click-through rates across platforms. During winter trips to Arkansas and Texas for the SB Pressure Washing channel, Andrea scouts addresses, tracks yards, and helps select which properties to approach. In short, every polished video Spencer posts is a two-person production. The channel has always been presented as one man with a mower. The reality is a husband and wife working side by side, building something neither of them could have pulled off alone. The face of SB Mowing is Spencer. The engine behind it is both of them. It started with a phone call. A friend of Spencer's, who works for the city, reached out about an elderly woman whose yard had become completely unmanageable. The city had issued a warning: clean it up or face a $240 fine. For most people, that's an inconvenience. For Beth, an 85-year-old disabled woman living alone, it was money she simply didn't have. Spencer showed up, took one look at the property, and got to work. Weeds had grown up through the deck directly outside her door. Overgrowth blocked the path to her car. The driveway had nearly disappeared. It took the kind of physical effort that most lawn care companies would have quoted several $100s to even attempt, and Spencer did it for nothing. When Beth came outside and saw what he'd done, she could barely find the words. She held on to Spencer's arm for balance, looked around at the transformed property, and told him quietly, "Your work makes me twinkle." Spencer shared the footage months later across his social media platforms. The response was immediate. Viewers flooded the comments demanding to know how they could help Beth further. Not just the lawn, but the accessibility issues making her daily life genuinely dangerous. A broken driveway, no ramp to her door, a washer and dryer she could no longer reach because the staircase had become too much. Spencer launched a GoFundMe on January 12, 2025. The goal was somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000. Within 24 hours, donations had blown past $750,000. The final total cleared $850,000. He immediately brought in an estate attorney and set up a legal trust to make sure every dollar stayed protected and went exactly where it was supposed to go. At some point, the numbers stop feeling like numbers and start feeling like something else entirely. 55 million followers across all platforms, 3 billion views every single year, a YouTube Shorts channel that has surpassed 4 million subscribers on its own, over 12 million followers on TikTok, more than 11 million on Facebook, a Snapchat presence closing in on 2 million, and a Spanish-language version of the channel extending his reach into an entirely different audience demographic that most creators never even consider. This is what SB Mowing actually is in 2025. Not a viral moment that got lucky and held on. Not a niche channel with a devoted but limited following. The largest lawn care and pressure washing social media brand on the planet, built by one person in one mid-sized city in Kansas, starting with a push mower borrowed from his dad. Spencer keeps the content machine running year-round by design. Wichita summers are for mowing. Kansas winters, when the ground freezes and the grass stops growing, are for loading up the truck and heading south. Arkansas, Texas, wherever the overgrown yards and the warmer weather take them. Andrea rides along, scouts locations, and the operation continues without missing a beat. There was never a moment where any of this was guaranteed to last. Spencer said it himself in an early interview. One day people might stop watching, and that would be completely fine. He'd figure something else out. But they didn't stop watching. They kept coming back every Friday, millions of them, for the same reason they showed up the first time. A yard that needed saving, a man willing to do the work, and a story worth telling. So what exactly were the rumors? That the free mowing was a front, that the money didn't add up, that someone else was really running things, that the kindness was performed. Every single one of those questions has been answered now, not with a dramatic confession or a viral controversy, but with something more compelling, the truth. Spencer built a genuine operation with a real partner on a model so simple it took the entire internet by surprise. He gave the work away and got paid anyway. He stayed private and became famous regardless. The rumors were never the story. The story was always the mower, the man, and what he quietly proved was possible.